everyone. Today I'm joined by Dave Michels from TalkingPointz, and we're going to be delving into TalkingPointz' latest insider report. So welcome, Dave. How's it going?
Going well. Welcome back you've been traveling the world.
I have. I've been to China, actually. I just ran the Great Wall of China Marathon, can you believe? But
Wow.
yeah, I am a little bit jet lagged and legs a little bit tired, but yeah. And it is early where you are as well, so I appreciate you getting up, and joining us for today's show. But first of all, I mean, for anyone out there, Dave, that doesn't know what TalkingPointz and what the insider report is all about, and who's it for, do you want to just give us a quick, 101 on the report?
Absolutely. Thanks, Rob. TalkingPointz publishes a monthly report called the Insider Report. It's a paid report, requires a paid subscription. It's written for the industry, insider, written for the industry. Most of the vendors, I think, in the space subscribe to it. A lot of industry consultants subscribe. A lot of industry analysts, both financial and industry analysts, subscribe. And what I do every month, and it's not just me now, I've got Dave Danto at TalkingPointz as well. We pull together we curate all the news of the month, so many of it from your site. And just kind of summarize it all up. It's a very skimmable report. Most of them are about 9-10 pages, but very skimmable headlines. And this is what happened, and this is why it matters type of thing. So it's written for executives in the enterprise comms industry that just want to stay up to date.
Good stuff. Yeah, I really see the value in it because objective analysis, especially from analysts, is invaluable, and just takes it that a little bit deeper. And I love your style. So without much of ado, let's talk about some of those headlines, and let's give our audience a little bit of insight into kind of what.
So the report we're going over is the April report. So the April report's a little confusing. The April report comes out in May, right? The first week of May, because we wait for April to end. And so we covered everything that happened in April. So that's the report we're looking at right now.
Great. Well, let's do that. First of all, Dave, I mean, the first headline that I really noticed was AI winter, question mark. Let's talk about AI. Yeah, I mean, AI is big right now, but AI winter. Talk us through that.
Yeah, that might be real strange if you have some Nvidia stock for sure. But what I was trying to highlight here is that we're starting to see some cracks in the armor, right? AI has been such a strong force for basically over a year now. You go back to Enterprise Connect 2023, where it was the big theme, and of course it was a big theme in EC24 as well. But we're starting to just see a few little cracks in the armor. In April, we had Meta got some pushback from its shareholders when they announced how much they were spending on AI. And for the first time, shareholders said, whoa, slow down there. You're spending too much on AI. We saw that we saw Alexa or Amazon kind of pull back on Alexa. We saw new products like the Rabbit R1 and the Humane AI pin more or less just flop out of the gate. And so we're starting to see, well, wait a minute, maybe this magical AI has some limits, which is great because it does have limits. And the sooner we acknowledge that, the better. It's still going crazy. And, I just mentioned Nvidia, their stock is still popping and still doing all kinds of great stuff. But there are just a little bit of boundaries beginning to show up, which is an important step in this change.
Yeah, it is one to watch, isn't it? Because you remember those metaverse days, and it really went big, didn't it? And I'm not sure we can compare it directly to the metaverse, but certainly that got a cold shower, after its year of, I suppose, all the hype. But it'd be interesting to see how whether things do slow down or not. But another one of your headlines, actually, while we're talking about AI, was. One thing you found interesting was the AI scheduler. So talking about actual AI in a positive light, what's the AI scheduler all about? Have you had a go at
I've written about this for years, and I'm so happy to finally see some progress on this. I'm really frustrated with how limited our scheduling tools are. And every one of us has our schedules online, yet it's a ridiculously manual process to schedule meetings. particularly for people across organizations or in different organizations. And we largely have replaced our paper calendars with online calendars, but use them the exact same way. And so, and particularly if you're an executive assistant, a large chunk of your time is going to just this manual process of scheduling people, which just seems so inherently crazy considering everything is online. But the reason why it's so difficult to schedule things is because our calendars just don't have enough information. And so some of these new AI calendars that are popping up are requiring more information. They're requiring to know, where you want to spend your time, what your priorities are, and putting more information into your appointments so that it can reschedule for you. But what I particularly like are some of the advanced rules that you can give some of these calendars. For example, I'm going to be traveling and I need to go pick up my shirts at the cleaners. That only takes an hour. And so what do I do today? I block out 3 to 4 to go pick up my shirts. But 3 to 4 is the only time that you could meet. And so I've really messed up a whole group's calendar or whatever. And so now you can put these rules into these calendars and say things like, I need an hour, anytime today to pick up my shirts. And the calendar will manage that for you. And I think this is a huge opportunity for advancement and productivity, and something that we long overdue. So I'm excited about that category getting some attention.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that because I've been, whining about, Microsoft's lack of, I suppose, drive to kind of really innovate with Outlook. And, most of us use Outlook, right? Or Google as a platform. Why can't we kind of work those platforms? Why can't they work together and just take those simple commands from us to book something in? Yeah, so I'm totally with you on that, Dave. 100%. Moving on from AI then, and some cool AI stuff that we could be talking about that all day long. Let's talk about Microsoft Teams, because one of your mentions in your report was about Microsoft's recent announcement around their Teams rooms numbers.
Yeah, so the Microsoft Teams announcement was actually their quarterly financial results, and the newsletter typically doesn't go too deep into those, particularly in April. But actually, Dimitri Nettis is a financial analyst at Benchmark. He has agreed to start contributing to the Insider Report on a quarterly basis. In fact, it's going to be this upcoming report on May.
Cool.
Where he'll be adding a regular section in on financial analysis. But what I pulled out of the financial analysis from Teams was they actually shared some Teams numbers at Microsoft, and they don't always do that, so it's kind of nice when they do. They shared two important numbers. They shared that they have 1 million Teams rooms now online. And they also shared that they crossed the 20 million PSTN user mark. Both of these numbers are really interesting because they seem pretty clear and pretty obvious, but they actually almost raise more questions than they answer. The 1 million Teams rooms, for example, you could say maybe if Microsoft has 1 million Teams rooms, and maybe somebody else has 500,000 Teams rooms, that you can add them together and say, well, there's at least this many Teams rooms or meeting rooms out there, excuse me. And you can't do that because a lot of these rooms flip into different modes. They go from Teams to Cisco or to something else. And so we don't really know how many of these rooms are dedicated. We don't really know how many of these rooms are used, and if they have other platforms available to them. But there's a whole bunch of questions around that. The 1 million seems like a big number. We've been shipping video rooms for, I don't know, 20 years. So 1 million is kind of a low number, but this is Microsoft saying it's all on Teams. And so like Cisco's been shipping rooms for 20 years, but they weren't all on WebEx. They were separate systems. And so trying to understand, we assume Microsoft's got the most meeting rooms online, but we don't really know because no vendors really share these numbers. So that was an interesting one. There's a whole discussion around that, and in fact, we posted a separate video on that as well. The 20 million is also very, very confusing. There's 4 ways to get PSTN services on Teams. There's direct routing, Operator Connect, the native UCaaS services from Microsoft, and the Teams Phone Mobile. So 4 ways. They're counting all 4. If you look at in the Wall Street Journal, RingCentral just published about a week ago, maybe a few weeks ago, some numbers, and they show their numbers twice as high as Microsoft, but much lower than these numbers because they were only counting the native UCaaS numbers. And so how you get dial tone and whether you count users or devices, one user can have multiple devices, I think RingCentral posted seats, Microsoft posted users, so it's another whole other interesting conversation around these numbers. But it's nice when Microsoft shares these numbers. The numbers seem healthy and rich, so we weren't we were celebrating the numbers, but we were asking a lot of questions about them.
Yeah, and I suppose with Teams, we've been talking numbers since the pandemic, haven't we? Because it was that pandemic darling product that just rose, to astronomical levels. But now it's got Copilot in the toolkit. Do we expect to kind of see those Teams numbers kind of slow down and kind of get?
Well, it's interesting because the numbers that they share keep changing, right? And so the numbers that they share tells us what they're looking at, or at least they suggest what they're looking at. But the numbers you're talking about with Teams growing during the pandemic, those are largely numbers that we can compare to Slack. But neither Slack nor Microsoft really publishes those numbers. In this report, Microsoft, I don't think they republished their total number of users, monthly active users. I don't think they did. I might be wrong. But the numbers they decide to share with us change on a regular basis. And so this time they're sharing meeting rooms and PSTN users. Both of those categories seem much more important to Microsoft than they were a few years ago. They're very focused on meeting rooms, and we've seen a lot of improvements in the meeting room story. And they seem, they just announced 5 nines at Enterprise Connect in March. They seem much more focused on voice. In fact, the large part of the keynote at Enterprise Connect was about voice and how Copilot could extract task extraction or pull out tasks and things like that. And so they're getting much more focused on voice than they were before, which is going to have some pretty big impacts to the ecosystem, we think.
Cool. Well, let's talk about another kind of video-related topic, which is in your report, which is really interesting, which I haven't actually spent much time looking into. I've never heard of it. But Google Vids, that's been recently announced. What is that, Dave?
So, we started our conversation around AI and how AI is going to be changing a lot of things. Copilot's a big part of that story. The contact center is a big part of that story. But AI is changing a lot of things, and a lot of vendors are seeing some opportunities here. For example, because you've covered it, how Microsoft sees perhaps AI is giving them an opportunity with Bing to compete against Google Search. And there's a lot of focus and effort there. Well, Google now sees an opportunity to compete against PowerPoint for Office presentations. And so Google's created this thing. They launched it at Google I/O. It's called Vids, and it's designed as a form of collaborative, I'm going to say PowerPoint, but instead of creating a slide deck, it creates a video. And they see this as the new thing where we will all create videos in our meetings as opposed to slide decks, and a way of disrupting the typical meeting. So they came out with Vids. It's version 1. Just like most things at Google, they didn't actually launch it when they announced it, so we had to wait a little while. The interesting thing is that after the event, they sent out a Vids-produced recap of their Google conference, of their next conference. And I thought the video was terrible. I thought Dave and I were talking about it. It just seemed so amateurish. It was overdone, had too many effects, had all this stuff, too many distractions. Dave compared it to Willy Wonka riding down the chocolate river. And so it has some. It's a little overdone. So version 1, not quite there yet. But the idea that we're all going to be creating and collaboratively working on videos instead of PowerPoints is an interesting idea and evolution of where this AI world could take us.
It is as a bolt-on to the productivity suite. I like that. That's got potential. Definitely worth watching. Let's keep an eye on that one. Dave, a couple of other things that's happened in the industry recently. Kind of not so great news, I suppose. NEC exiting premises-based UC. That was a story that we covered recently on UC Today. What's your take on that? Can we expect to see more of that, or
Well, we're not going to see a lot more of it because there's not a lot left. And so we are at 100%, Rob, of the premises-based vendors failing at migration to UCaaS. Every one of these vendors, Nortel, Avaya, Mitel, ShoreTel, Toshiba, Astra, every one of them had a cloud strategy in the 90s or in the 2000s, let's say, that they were going to become a cloud provider, and they all set out to do it, and they all 100% failed. The two exceptions, and they're not quite exceptions, are Microsoft and Cisco. But what they did was they made huge acquisitions. Microsoft acquired first Skype, which was a big getting them in the cloud business and communications business, and then later Metaswitch. Cisco failed, and then they ended up buying BroadSoft, acquiring BroadSoft. So huge acquisitions do seem to overcome this limitation. But 100% of the companies that didn't make a huge acquisition did fail. NEC is the most recent and one of the last ones to do so. And so they announced that they see their premises business not worth it anymore. And so they've announced worldwide, there's a huge, I mean, they were the number 3 PBX maker worldwide about 20 years ago. They say worldwide they're going to shut down premises-based and private cloud PBX with the exclusion of Japan. Japan's still a very strong market for them. They have a partner with Intermedia. They offer NEC Univerge Blue, and they've officially recommended to their customers that they migrate to Univerge Blue. But a lot of customers are going to want to stay on-prem for various reasons, legitimate reasons, and they did not provide direction to those customers what they should do. And so Mitel, Cisco...
The NEC's a bulletproof PBX as well. It could sit in the cupboard for many moons, I reckon. But what you're saying is that there's not a path forward for support and maintenance and that parts and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and a lot of their customers, for example, they have a really strong vertical in healthcare, and so a lot of hospitals have NEC phone systems. They don't want to go to cloud. They have lots of weird integrations going on. They want the system on site. And so, like I said, Avaya, Cisco, Mitel, and a few others are really circling around that space. If you want to stay on-prem, we're here for you.
Yeah, indeed. Well, Intermedia is going to be a real benefactor there by the sounds of things. And they've just done
Intermedia is popping up a lot. And we did the interview on UC Today with Michael Gold. And if you listened to that interview, and I'm sure you did because it was a great interview, I kept on trying to push him. I said, all this stuff has to be happening like a master plan, right, Michael? And you raise money, and and NEC's exiting, and it's all happening at the same time. And you just launched a healthcare vertical. It's all got to be like this master plan. He's like, no, it's just luck. It's just coincidence. And so
he was playing it cool, though, wasn't he? He was playing it cool. Yeah. Maybe he's got something in his back pocket. Yeah. Well, another brand that has also retired a pretty significant product is Meta, or Facebook. And their workplace platform. We were only talking about that the other day, and I couldn't believe just a day later we see that announcement.
That was pretty crazy. You brought it up with me, and I said I don't even know if they're still around. And sure enough, they answered that question pretty clearly. We are around, and we're not going to be. So. That was actually a big surprise that they just decided to exit that space completely. But I guess I should say a big surprise since we just said that they were kind of disappearing. But what's interesting there is how Zoom is going to benefit from that one. So Intermedia is going to benefit from Zoom's NEC's exit, but this situation with during the pandemic, we as an industry and as a race, for that matter, humans as a race, nailed remote meetings. We conquered remote meetings. What we didn't conquer particularly well during the pandemic was this other aspects of being in the office. And it's everything from team building to onboarding to meeting new people, the equivalent of the water cooler conversations. And that's where products like Meta Workplace fit. And so the only UC company that kind of actively went out to fix that hole after the pandemic was Zoom. They acquired Workvivo. And I think Workvivo is actually a very strategic part of the Zoom story. It's nice to see that Meta recognized that. I guess the two companies are working on some migration tools and development plans. And I think it's a very important category. And should we have another type of pandemic or emergency like that, I think Zoom is very much more well prepared than many of its competitors now because they have patched that hole.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Microsoft Viva now, kind of making waves. There's a lot of development and investment going in there from Microsoft's perspective to kind of hook in with the Teams experience and everything else. You're right, Zoom and Workvivo. So that concept of social collaboration. Do you think there's still plenty of potential then in that space, whether you call it social collaboration or something else? Do you think there's definitely room to that could be where collaboration platforms go in the future?
It's a real difficult challenge for these companies, and there's a couple reasons why. When you provide a company-sanctioned social platform, people want to use it, and then it becomes what is sanctioned company communications. So Zoom Workvivo is very focused on recognition and celebrations and things like that. But we've had all kinds of stories. Are employees allowed to use these tools to organize unions, for example, or to do things that maybe the company doesn't have an interest in? And how do you police these things for harassment and other inappropriate usage? And so there's this fine line where we want you to have this social platform. We want the company bowling league scores on there. We want all kinds of photos on there, but it has to be censored and managed. And this is the same thing Musk is dealing with on a bigger level with Twitter or X. And so it's a gray area, and a lot of companies want to avoid it. Now one benefit, because I've talked to some of Zoom's Workvivo customers, one benefit of a product like this is it actually makes their chat app stronger, because all that stuff on there, all these conversations about the bowling league and whatnot that are being forced on there because there's no other tool, disappear, and the chat apps become more efficient and more productive the way they're intended. So it's an important area. These conversations need to happen, and the companies can't decide whether they want to facilitate them or not. That's
Yeah,
the scope. Yeah.
I agree, because we run an employee engagement platform here, which is like a HR platform on steroids, I suppose. But it's designed to really kind of add that sparkle to your HR employee experience process and touch points and all that kind of stuff. And one thing I always think is, why isn't this baked into the wider kind of UC kind of space, collaboration space? Because one thing companies really struggle with, and even we struggle with it from time to time, is that employee engagement piece. But everyone's highly engaged in UC apps. That's where they are. That's what they're using on a daily basis. Why aren't we plugging in those employee experience engagement?
Yeah, I should mention Microsoft Viva, because they've also expanded to that area, but that's almost like a bigger platform. It's more of a platform than a application, but Microsoft's also expanding there. But most of the UCaaS industry is mostly ignoring it, which is I think probably a mistake, and I think it's going to work out well for Zoom.
Let's see where that goes. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Finally, one last news item I wanted to touch on, which is very much a part of the UC stack nowadays, which is customer engagement. And your headline was jumped out at me because it said the impending CCaaS bloodbath.
Yeah, this was
take us through that.
So the report is organized in different sections. So there's we've gone through the UC section. There's a meeting section, etc. This is the customer engagement section, and I put out a LinkedIn post about the impending bloodbath, and it got a lot of attention. So I decided to follow up and expand more on that in the insider report. And basically, there's going to be a mass consolidation in the CX space very soon. There's just a lot of variables going on. There's too many vendors, too many changes occurring. We've got this AI explosion that is completely shaking up the space. Depending on how you count vendors, you can say that there's probably either 50 to 100 CCaaS providers in there, which is just simply too many. We've got the adjacencies coming in, everything from work engagement apps to the CRM vendors and the cloud providers. They're all circling this space like we've never seen before. The traditional moats that this space has relied on, and we have there's barriers to entry into the contact center space, For years, it was hardware and the carrier relationships. Then we moved off of hardware to software. Then we moved off software to cloud services. So the barriers are disappearing. And not only are they disappearing, but no one's even talking about them. We used to just talk about the ACD, the skills-based ACD as a barrier that most vendors couldn't do. But no one's talking about that. Everyone's talking about AI, and everyone has access to AI. And that's just it. The key word there is access, because very few vendors are actually developing their own AI. The channels are dramatically changing, and so it used to all be about voice, but now it's WhatsApp and all these digital channels. So there's just way too many variables happening, and there's going to just be a bloodbath. I mean, there's just way too many vendors here, and so to be successful is going to require some agility. It's going to require a lot of cash, a lot of business acumen, and a lot of luck, because we're going to see a huge bloodbath here in the next few years.
Interesting. Dave Michels, you've heard it here. He's predicting consolidation in the CCaaS industry. Let's see what happens. Good stuff. Dave, last but not least, a really cool section of your report is your Goodreads. Some curated news articles that I think you're finding when you're researching what's going on in the world. But take us through what these Goodreads is all about, and maybe a couple of your highlights from the April report.
Well, so what happens in this report is, obviously I'm reading your site, I'm reading other sites, I'm reading all kinds of news sites, trying to put together the curated news for the month. And sometimes I come across these really interesting articles that I think should be shared and amplified, but I don't really necessarily have an opinion to add to them. And so in this particular report, I guess there were 13 Goodreads. That's about typical for an insider report. And so just a couple examples here. There was one here on this large language models can do jaw-dropping things, but nobody knows exactly why. And I think it's so important that people understand that nobody understands this new generative AI. And because we don't understand it, it's really hard to predict where it's going to go. Almost all these other technologies that we cover in our space, and most technologies in general, we understand them. And because we understand them, they get faster, better, cheaper over time. And we know kind of where they're going to go. But we don't know where this is going to go. We don't know what's going to get faster, better, cheaper. There's a lot of unknowns around AI. So I thought that article was really good. Just one more really quickly I thought was interesting was a fried chicken restaurant in New York has got their cashiers now in the Philippines and doing a kiosk style. We've seen this type of thing before. We've seen drive-thrus run out of specialized call centers and stuff like that. I think this is, there's as we look about where employees should work, there's actually advantages to having employees, not just financial advantages in terms of salary, but other technical advantages to having people abroad. The McDonald's stuff, the drive-thrus, when they did this before, it was people that were really good at different languages. It was people that were trained specifically for drive-thru as opposed to getting all the food and everything like that. So I think this trend is a really interesting trend and deserves some attention. So.
Yeah, some really interesting stories, those. I love that section, Dave. So thanks for that. Well, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for today. Dave, as always, really great talking to you. Thank you so much for joining me.
Very good. Thank you, Rob.
And thanks to everyone for watching. If you've got some good takeaways from today's session, do give us a quick mention on social. Say hi in the comments and connect. You can connect with Dave and myself on LinkedIn, and we're going to drop some links in the description to Dave's website and how you can get access to the Insider Report yourself. So thanks for watching.